good.
Hello, Calgary and surrounding area, and maybe anybody else who might be watching. Today, we are going to be talking about the real estate market in Calgary and how some people might be getting shortchanged. Today, our guest, he's one of the best real estate agents in Calgary. His name is PERRI SCARCELLI, and we're going to be having some good fun today, and just going to get some really helpful tips out. So, PERRI, how are you today?
I'm good, Mike. I'm good. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well. It's been pretty busy with the whole, everything melting in people's attics. I'm getting a lot of calls about that condensation. We were talking about that a little earlier. But I'd just like to hear a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Well, first off, thanks for having me. I know you guys have been called to a few things of mine for clients and stuff, and always done a bang up job. But sitting in this room with you and seeing all the accreditations and awards on the walls for your guys' company, I'm a little intimidated.
Oh,
No. But a little bit about me. I grew up in Calgary, born and raised. Dad was a realtor, always super passionate about real estate. I started off on the mortgage side, I always knew this is where I wanted to end up, was on the real estate side, but just understanding what banks were looking for and, what collapses deals and that kind of stuff, and just having a good understanding of the fundamentals behind it, a whole thing was a huge thing for me to start out with, and then just made my natural progression over to real estate a little while ago, about 5 years ago. So, and I love it.
awesome. Well, that's pretty cool. So basically real estate is in your blood. So you've been out there 5 years, but really you've been in the game a lot longer than that, technically.
Yeah. I always loved it. Learned a lot growing up around it, and even worked on the renovation side of things when I was going through university and stuff like that on custom renovations. I worked with a big contractor, and was basically his right hand for a while, and then after university got my mortgage stuff, and always been around something to do with housings for sure. So.
Well, I think that's really important. I think having actual hands-on experience in the industry, because if you're an astronaut coming in to being a real estate agent, that's going to not be nearly as transferable.
Yeah, being able to understand and recognize what true costs are on stuff is a big thing, right? Because sometimes people don't see the difference between the two, and the market doesn't always allow for you to put in premium stuff in certain areas and get that return. Sometimes you're overbuilding or over renovating for that area, but you can also capture a really good deal for your buyers in those situations as well, because you're recognizing the quality of work and the level of material that is actually being put into those houses. You can kind of get your clients a lot of bang for their buck, because the neighborhood might not warrant that type of quality, if that makes any sense to anybody. So
you're kind of saying putting gold handles on a pig trough kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all the comps might just be, LVP, so luxury vinyl plank, and just your regular run of the mill, maybe IKEA cabinets or just base model cabinets from a cabinet maker. But you go in and a base level builder grade quartz and flooring type of deal throughout the whole thing. But you walk into a house and it's the neighborhood, there's a lot of pride of ownership, and maybe they didn't renovate to sell it, so they renovated it to live in. And you have maybe 6-inch or 10-inch white oak on the floor. You have a $20,000 kitchen cabinet package. You have premium Brazilian granite or something like that. You have Carrara marble in the showers. Now, while the neighborhood stats might be well, we can't give you all your money back for this, just based off of area, right? The the saying goes, the saying's around for a reason, right? Location, location, location.
Totally.
So, but you could get a very high end, really high quality renovation in an area if you understand what you're looking at for a really good price. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with, the builder grade type of flips and stuff like that, because there is a market for it and they are quality as well. It's just the quality of the material that's going in is where where you have to kind of differentiate yourself and understand.
For sure. So basically, what I'm kind of hearing you saying is that, I mean, basically you won't get your full money back on, like, if you're in kind of a, we'll say, not exactly a high end neighborhood, and you're putting in high end stuff. But I could imagine that would at least increase the sellability of your home, would it not?
Yeah, 100%. People will see the value in that 100%. And I think that's, you hit it on the head there. A lot of times in real estate, especially in the Calgary market, because the boom times, in '06, like, '03 to '07 kind of deal, were so active and house prices were just screaming up. Like you could make so many mistakes in a renovation or a flip or whatever, and the market was just moving up so quick, you still made money, right? Where over the last 5 years, we've really kind of seen that the reverse effect, right? Like you really have to really understand what you're doing. You have to really stay true to your numbers and all that kind of stuff if you want to be able to sell it at a profit, not a loss. But the thing that most people and most contractors need to understand when they're getting into these types of things is not every dollar into a house means a dollar out. And that's where I was kind of alluding to the boom times where, a dollar in was a dollar out. Now, you might put a dollar in and you might only get, 60 cents of that back, right?
So are there any, like, is there anything where you could, like, say, put in like $2 or sorry, $1 and get $2 back kind of thing? Like, is there anything like that?
Yeah, there is certain things, like when you're knocking down walls and taking, like take a standard 1,100 square foot bungalow kind of deal, and you're opening up the kitchen and that kind of stuff. You're gonna get your money back on that for sure. Flooring's a really good return for your money if you're doing it properly and you're actually getting the right materials and tasteful. Kitchens, master, like en-suites kind of deal. Flooring, kitchens, and en-suites you'll get your money back for sure. Like you'll come close to doubling your money on that, depending on what you're doing and how you do it. And then the other ones, then there's a lot that, give you like $1.40 back, like maybe 40% return on your money, 20%. But there's a lot of things that when you're renovating and it kind of evens out the slope is you just have to do them, but
Right.
it doesn't actually return you the money, right? So, an example might be, a yard. A yard is a good example. So the average return on a yard across Canada is $8,800. So if you spend $25,000 redoing your backyard on something like that, well, only plants get 8,800 of that back,
I see.
right? Where if you spend 15 grand on a kitchen, it's probably going to increase your value by $25,000 to $30,000. So you're going to get your 15 plus 10 to 15.
That's really helpful to know. Now, like, what would you say would be the least profitable renovation in a house?
Ooh, least profitable renovation in the house. Man, it's a tough one. To pinpoint it down, I would say on a small scale, I'd say probably painting. Like you need to paint. Painting can be expensive, but that's going to be your least profitable because it's just needs to be done. You can't leave a house drywall, right?
Right.
On a larger scale, where I think people make a big mistake outside of their yard, would be their basements, I would say. I've seen a lot of people in, the $500,000-$600,000 range for houses spend $100,000 in their basement, and it's like,
Really?
no,
Oh.
like that's a lot of money to spend downstairs, in that caliber of a house. You could have got that done for far cheaper, and no one's going to give you $100,000 for a basement development in those types of houses, right? That's more as estate style.
Okay, so for style housing, you'll get the most bang for your buck for those kind of things.
Well, you won't get the most bang for your buck, but if you spent 120 grand in your basement, it's different, right? Because upstairs is, it's more estate. You have a larger
Oh, I
footprint
see.
and that kind of stuff. But 500,000 to 600,000, like you're working with, probably 800 to 900 square feet in your basement. And that's, after you take out like the utility room and stuff, right? So it's pricey per square foot, right?
Okay, well that's really all really good stuff to know. I think the homeowners will find that helpful. Now, I think that you were talking about something about before selling. Now, what would a person do before they sell, and how could they get their return the best?
Yeah, so it depends on the clients, 100%. Depends on who's selling, their level of appetite for a lot of things. Some people are just comfortable selling it the way it is, and they don't want to put any more money in the house. They just want to maximize what they can get out. But in Calgary, as you can speak to, and this is something that you've corrected for some of my sellers, no pains corrected for some of my sellers, is attic rain is a very, very common thing in Calgary. We've been over it 100 times, and anybody that's listening that wants to learn more about it, definitely reach out to Mike because he knows his stuff. But the roof vents and stuff like that is just, they're not always placed in the best spot, and condensation builds up in your attic because our weather just changes so much, and that's why we get our spotting on our roof, and all that kind of stuff, or on our ceilings, and that's something that like is worth correcting, if it's feasible for you, because it's going to come out in a home inspection. It's going to make people wonder. One of the biggest things that people don't like to see when they're buying a house is anything to do with moisture. That's a big thing for them, because there's two M words that kind of go hand in hand: moisture and mold. And
Right.
a lot of times, people without the knowledge that you might have, or the knowledge that I've obtained over the years as well, they might not have the full understanding about those things, and it really scares people off. It deters people away when it could be just a minimal thing. It just needs to be revented, a couple of vents added, and some killed kind of deal, and some spray to kill that mold, and a treatment on the ceiling, and it's gone.
But I'm going to say though, it is warranted to be scared by that kind of thing, and sometimes, because I mean, like I just got out of a house there where builder just finished it, no attic hatch in it. It's got a vaulted ceiling, and he's got water coming down all of his walls, like every single exterior wall. And that's a house killer.
Yeah. And I wasn't trying to die it down at any expense. I'm just saying that, sometimes we see, something the size of a toonie, that just has a venting issue, just slight
Right.
moisture built up in the attic. We can easily rectify and correct that at a minimal cost kind of deal. But it could deter somebody away because they don't fully understand it, right? What you're talking about is definitely a deal killer. I would not feel comfortable taking a listing like that or having a buyer move forward on a home like that. For sure, I would not advise it.
100%. No, I know. I'm glad you feel that way. But no, like you said though, I mean, look, sometimes it's just a matter of a bit of bleach spray around the attic hatch. Sometimes it's a matter of just a little bit of an insulation top up kind of thing. I mean, a lot of the time we'll say that's the case, but you don't want people to be thinking about worst case scenario. So
Totally.
So basically what you're saying, so like say somebody's got their house for sale for $350,000 and there's a bit of a moisture issue in there that they didn't resolve. Like what kind of amount of money could they be looking at losing on that?
It's tough to put a dollar figure on there because, it could be $5,000 that they maybe left on the table, but it could have also taken them 3 to 6 months longer to sell the house.
Right.
So you got to put in your property taxes. Those go out the window every month. You got to put in, if there's a mortgage, any interest payment on that mortgage that we all pay, that's going out the window. You got to pay your minimum insurance. And right now, I don't know if every listener is aware of it, but right now, if you have a vacant property, the insurance companies are jacking up your insurance like crazy. So that's another expense. So it's hard to really pinpoint like how much you're losing, but you are going to lose a little bit more, right? And potentially scare away a buyer. So, having that when you go to market, to have something like that rectified beforehand, you fully understand what's going on there. You've corrected it. You controlled the cost, and now you can try to, and you can get that back, right? Because now you have leverage. Especially when a company like No Pain comes in and corrects it for us. The service warranty that you guys provide on those types of things is transferable to the homeowner, so the next buyer. So now there's a little bit of leverage from the seller's standpoint now on the positioning of all that, right? Of just being like, no, we corrected that. This is the transferable warranty. So if anything happens, your buyers can kind of continue on that. So it's going to help you get that money back and then some.
Right.
Understanding your home's a big thing when you list, for sure.
That's really interesting stuff. I didn't really think about the whole time is kind of money in a way, like every month that goes by, it's like this is happening, that's happening, and I guess I suppose you take a lot of risk too. I guess the markets can go up and down in quite a hurry. So you're saying
Totally.
things are getting pretty hot right now. So what's going on there?
Yeah. I don't know if I want to spend too much time guessing on what's going on, but it's hot. It's crazy right now. When we started to kind of be released back into the wild out of our first kind of lockdown there in June, July, people started buying, and it just got busier and busier and busier and busier. And all of us, I think, across the industry would have thought that around December, January, and February, it would have died down as it typically does. It didn't. It just continued. It continued to go. I read a crazy stat on my way here, and in the last 7 days in Calgary, either just shy of 700 houses have either gone conditionally sold or sold in the last 7 days, and only 560 have come on market. So, where before for the last 5 years, it's been like, 1,000 houses come on the market in a 7 day span, and maybe 200 sold.
Oh, wow.
So you're seeing it really flip. So the power is shifting back, and in a lot of places, in a lot of communities, has already shifted back to actually the seller. Yeah, it's a really good time to buy. Interest rates are low. It's kind of the perfect storm for everyone, like interest rates are low. So it's cheap to buy. We bottomed out. It looks like we bottomed out in home prices, not a guaranteed, but it looks like we bottomed out in home prices. We're starting to rebound back. So best time to buy is kind of like on that upswing. And now that it's a positive market, as a seller, you're happier with your sale price, and you can still get into the house you want to get into, or the area you want to get into at a affordable price before, what looks like is going to happen is, pretty big spike in home prices over the next year or so.
I think so. Hey, yeah. I mean, I kind of agree with that, and like inflation just in general is kind of going up. I'm noticing like food prices are up a lot.
Yeah.
And just generally kind of everything is going up. The dollar's kind of shrinking.
Yeah, you're definitely my type of economist. That's how I measure inflation too. I just do the math as I drive home from the grocery store.
Yeah.
I do it per grocery bag. I remember 4 years ago you could go and get a grocery bag for $25 and you could fill it up, and now it's like $55, $60.
Crazy,
and you're
right?
like, what did I buy? I bought an apple.
I could have got a tree back then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well that's pretty, again, really neat stuff. I've some new perspectives for me. So what about you as a person? So outside of real estate or being a real estate agent, like what do you like to do?
Oh man, loaded question. Well, I like to do a lot of social things, but so right now it's really nothing.
Right.
But for the most part, real estate keeps me really busy. We welcomed our first little girl, my wife and I, almost 15 months ago now. So, I like spending time with her as much as I can, watching her grow up. She's at a really fun age. And obviously spending time with my wife, friends, and family. And I'm a big community guy. I like to give back to some local charities and stuff, and spend some time with them and that kind of stuff.
I love working with charities. It'd be great to give some shout outs to some charities. Which charity would you say you like to work with?
I'll give two. So I'm the Cancer Association, like Cancer Society of Alberta, they launched a new um, event to raise money, and it's called Spin for Life. And I'm a founding sponsor of that. Um, and what it is we had an airplane hangar rented. We have a bunch of stationary bikes because we can control the climate. And there was going to be, I think, 800 bikes, and we all had 8 hours, and we were going to try to cycle around the world, and we were going to try to break a world record. It was actually supposed to happen in April last year, and then we postponed it 3 times, and now it's just postponed indefinitely. So we're trying to launch that out. We had a really cool virtual thing that we were about to do in November, and unfortunately, all that stuff got shut down right before we were about to do it. So now we're just kind of indefinitely. And then the other one's actually a really cool charity called Community Key. It's actually a local charity. And it's fantastic. They actually step in if your child is, critically ill or anything like that in hospital. You can apply for this, and they will step in if you qualify and pay your rent or your mortgage. So you don't have to really worry about those types of things, and you can kind of maybe take unpaid leave if need be, kind of deal, and spend time as a family and just focus on what you're focused on, instead of one spouse or parent having to go back to work to try to keep everything floating. So if you've never heard of them, which you might not have, I would recommend checking them out, because they're a local charity and they're fantastic.
And what was the name of that charity again?
It's called Community Key.
Community Key. I've never heard of that one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's great.
And with the Cancer Society there, so you said you were a founding sponsor?
Yeah. So it's a new thing. So they were looking for a few sponsors. There's a bunch of us that are on there that kind of came together to kind of lift it off the ground. So it's really cool.
So you helped. So you kind of helped so you were like helping building it.
Well, not so much like on the ground level build it, but more so our donations went to establishing it and try to kind of bring it to life and stuff. And we're through social media, and I haven't been the best on it, but trying to kind of build the awareness around it, because it's really cool, because we actually default donations to just Alberta research, so it doesn't get shared across Canada. So if you're worried about your money, your donations right now, because no one's really sticking up for Albertans, if you're worried about your donations getting shipped over to, I'll pick on them, Quebec, you don't have to worry about that. If you don't choose it, it will stay here. Or you can actually choose for it to go across the country through all the cancer research that goes out there. Or you can choose for it to stay in Alberta, and it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. I like that. I like that idea. You kind of I'm all about like investing local. I want to see my dollars, show up where I'm kind of living around, like we want to build this community and make it a nicer place.
Yeah. And I'll give my brokerage a big shout out for that. And that's a big reason why I hung my license with Maxwell Capital Realty, is just because it's local. There's other franchises out there where your franchise fees that you pay every month actually go to Colorado, and they go out to the States. So I like to really assure that, your dollars stay in Alberta, and as much as I can, Calgary specifically.
It definitely makes you feel better. And that's one thing I realized too. If you don't believe in what you're doing, you don't do it as good, and that's
totally agree with that.
That's great. And what was your brokerage's name?
Maxwell Capital Realty.
Maxwell Capital Realty.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I noticed here you got this cool number 8 residential producer 2020. So how'd you score that puppy?
I believe it's based off of production, so transaction volumes and stuff like that. So I've been super grateful with the amount of support that I've gotten from past clients and referrals and that kind of stuff, and friends and the people around me. Really appreciate all that stuff. So it was a good year. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we love working with winners. So, I mean, you're definitely one of our top recommendations for for Calgary's real estate.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And you're definitely the only roofing company I give out. I mean, I shouldn't say that. You're the only one.
Hey, man. Well, and we want to work hard. I mean, like, the fact that, a guy of your stature recommending us, that's a huge deal to us, and just puts our feet to the fire even more,
Yeah. And the only reason why I got weird about that is because it does mandate 3 referrals. But I always tell them this is who I've had experience with, but if you're welcome to go phone others kind of deal, because it's tough to just try to give out 3 names if you haven't had positive experiences with other people, right? So I just stick to the one and give the power back. I don't put a gun to anybody's head, but usually they do end up calling you, and they've always been super satisfied and happy. So
awesome. Well, we definitely want to keep that trend going. So I think you said that there's a home inspector you wanted to mention.
I'd give Britannia Home Inspections a big shout out for sure. Very knowledgeable guy. He's not only is he have all the accreditations and a master inspector, but he's also he's got applied knowledge too, right? Like he's done a lot of renovations himself. I believe he's built back before he immigrated to Canada. I think he built back in his country in the UK, and he's just got a bunch of experience behind his certifications and stuff. So he's very, very good at detecting things that might not look like a big deal, but they in fact are. And he's also very good at detecting things that might look like a big deal, but actually might not be that expensive to fix or isn't a showstopper in all reality. Yeah, so he's great. He's great.
Britannia Home Inspections. Yeah, I've seen him around on Instagram. I follow him.
Yeah.
And what I really like about what you're saying right now is that you're not talking about like somebody that's going to just rush the sale. You're actually more concerned with the guy's quality, and is he going to find things? Is he going to do your buyers and sellers right? I like that.
Yeah, and integrity is a big part of it too, right? There's every industry has guys that are really good at what they do, guys and girls that are really good at what they do, and people that are, not maybe on the ethical side of things or have the largest amount of integrity. So sometimes, finding those people, I'll never speak above a home inspector, right? They're a third parties brought in for a reason. And if he finds something that we need to discuss and that's at the best interest of a client, like we talk about it, and he doesn't try to hide anything or, maybe look at the realtor and say, hey, should I make mention of this or anything like that? Like he does his job, and it's good.
And the fact that you bring that up, I mean, which is interesting because that happens all the time. I know it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I funny story. I actually sold an estate house to a couple. And the couple that was selling it lived there 4 years prior, 5 years. They bought it like 4 years prior to us buying it. So they were pretty aware from their home inspection what happened, but there was a bunch of roofing issues actually. Nothing major. Just like, we needed to add a couple vents. There was some, it was an acreage property. So some stuff was peeling back and that kind of stuff. And Howard found it all, and they had no insight on it from when they bought it. And you could tell that that's been there for a while. And they actually called Howard to actually do their home inspection because they're like, man, like you did such a good job. Like we didn't know any of this stuff, or none of this stuff was brought up to us when we purchased. So, and they actually called him. I know they called him on that one. So, there's more to just the real estate side. It's the team that is surrounding that realtor and that agent. You're really working, together. Like you really work together on ensuring the best interest of each and every client. Right.
Right. Yeah. No, finding the best is what you want. You know, that's, quality over quantity is what we're all about over here. And it sounds like you are as well. Well, that's all really great stuff that we've talked about today. So before we kind of wrap this up, is there anything else on your mind?
I don't know. I think I think what I just kind of said was, one thing that, we kind of were talking about with how crazy the market's being is just really assuring that you're working with a professional that, no matter what industry, whether it's on the construction side or, on the sales side, just working with a professional that really has their feet in the dirt and is really up to date with what is actually going on in the current market. And where I'm going with that is, I've been involved on two buyers for investors on flips where the properties were on the market for 8 hours and they were so underpriced. Like we're talking more than 10%, 12% underpriced. And, and we were in multiple offer situations, like crazy. And, other ones where like, yeah, like selling at 120 grand above asking price in certain neighborhoods on the estate side. And we're not talking like estates as in like, I shouldn't say like estate, more so like larger houses in upper middle class communities. We're talking like they were listed at 600 grand and selling for 720. So just assuring that, as listings come on and as those types of things happen, if had this been a different market, those people would have got taken advantage of big time. They would have left a lot of money on the table. So to assure that you're working with a professional that is actually aware of your neighborhood stats and what is going on in the current market and that kind of stuff, and is being transparent with you as a seller or a buyer and showing you the math and showing you the stats and keeping you true to the numbers, the true numbers that are there, is vital. It's vital to your own personal like household, right? So
For sure, I know I would lose a lot of sleep if I found out that I just sold a house and and it was $100,000 less than what it should have been. Like that's a big deal.
yeah, and they got lucky because it's a good market right now. So like there's not a lot of inventory out there, right? But one house in particular that I'll talk about that I was a buyer on, it probably should have been listed at probably 30 grand higher than it was because it was below 400, but it should have been listed at probably 30 grand higher than it was. So just shy of the 400 mark. And just because of multiple offers, they got up there because there was 14 of us that rode on that property. And my investor, we didn't go that high. We put our hat in the ring because you got to take a shot. But you also have to stay true to the numbers, right? Like, you got to make sure after you're done that renovation that you can flip it and make money, right? So, we didn't get that one. That's okay. But I was baffled and I felt really bad for the seller almost because they got lucky and, there hasn't been much luck for sellers over the last 5 years in real estate in Calgary. So, I was just like that house should have been listed at, 30, 40 grand higher than it was. And maybe it didn't sell the first day, but they probably would have got in around the same price within 2 or 3 days in this market. And if a bunch of other houses got listed around them, maybe they wouldn't have, they might have sold for far less because they were, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Undervalued.
And when I think of undervalued, I know I've sold some things, and I think we all have. And when you get a call right away, and they want to buy it right now, I think to me that's a good indicator that things might be a little underpriced.
Yeah, and in today's world, it could also mean that you're actually showing the value. So, so it goes both ways. It's not unheard of for houses to sell on first day on the market right now because the inventory is low, or $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000 above asking because there's 3 or 4 offers on the table. But I think it's saying something about what you priced your house at and what you agreed to price your house at. If you're on the market in 8 hours, you have 21 offers on the table. I think that's a huge indication that you're like, wait a second, my realtor did not understand the desire for this community or the amount of people that actually want this house, right? And where the value actually stands here. Multiple offers are selling the same day for full asking. That's normal right now, because if you're showing the value of what it's worth today, no one's beating around the bush. It's hard to find a good house right now at a good price. So, at today's value.
Well, that makes sense to me. I mean, because like you say, like prices are going up right now, so it's like, it's kind of a good deal for everybody. But yeah, like you're saying, you don't want to be sitting on a house for 6 months, and you might have got a few $1,000s more, but it costs you that much in insurance and all those other things you were talking about.
Yeah, 100%. And one thing that I will say as well is, because I know a lot of agents don't, I think I'm the only one that does this, or one of few that do this, is just understanding the math. So again, back to the transparency part of understanding everything that goes along there. We all have a friend in a certain industry. We all have a relative in a certain industry or something like that. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't use your friends or your relatives. I am saying we are dealing with large sums of money. We are dealing with amounts of money that can dramatically affect you for years if you make the wrong move. So working with people that are full-time in the industry, working with people that are really, top producing agents and really understand the market and where it's at is vital. You don't need to overpay for something. You don't need to undersell something. And you just need to have the understanding of what's going on, especially if you bought 3 years ago. You might have bought 3 years ago through a friend, and now you call that friend back and they sell your house and you upsize or downsize, whatever that situation is. Well, where the issue is I've had a few of my clients do that, and I sit down and I do the math worksheet with them. And because 3 years ago, interest rates on mortgages were so much higher than they are today, where we're at record lows, and you have so much time left on a 5-year mortgage, your payout penalty to get out of that mortgage is not worth selling your house. We're talking like some of them are, as high as like $18,000.
Wow.
$12,000. So if you're not doing that, if your agent who I shouldn't give that, but where most agents, unlike myself, I do those numbers. I make you call your bank. I make you understand what your payout penalty is, so you know what the check's going to be, and what your commission payouts look like, all that stuff. So you know what the bottom line is going to be when you get to the lawyer's office and they cut that check. You know what you're going to be working with. Because I never want anybody to get to the lawyer's office and be like, Perry, if I would have known that, the bank was going to charge me $12,000 to get out of my mortgage, I would have never done this, man. So, building that transparency and that level of trust with your clients and understanding is key, and always work with somebody that you trust.
For sure, I agree with that, and I mean, I think we all kind of come across that kind of thing. Like even for myself, like people like I got an uncle that knows how to roof, or I got a friend of a friend, and outside of the fact that something could go wrong, and that could really like ruin your relationship with somebody close too, right?
Totally. On a roofing perspective, fall off your roof.
Yeah.
Whose insurance covers that?
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
Like you end up with a broken leg or something, and now the guy can't work. Like, what's going on, right? Where a company like you comes in, and the guys are all safe and they're tied up and all that stuff. So, and they're working properly, and you don't have to worry about that stuff. And maybe it does cost you the extra $500, but it's done right. If something a material fails, it's under warranty, and you guys carry that, and God forbid if anybody were to ever fall, which I hope that never happens to anyone,
right.
and that kind of stuff. But you're insured for it. It doesn't go back to the homeowner, and you don't, little things, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's what it kind of boils down to value. Like where are you getting your best value, and
100%.
It sounds like people can get really good value with you, and that transparency is a big part of value. So.
Thanks.
Right. Well, Perry, it's been really, it's been great having you here. I guess you're our first official guest on the podcast here. Yeah. So
you got a trophy?
Here, I've got one right here. Have this pyramid here, But no, it was really great having you on here, and I think everyone's found this helpful. I know I have.
I know.
So. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in today. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them below, and we'll definitely get there answering them. You get a hold of Perry anytime. As I said, he's one of the best real estate agents in Calgary. Can't go wrong with Perry. Give him a call.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Nice. I didn't run out of stuff to talk about. Went good amount of time. Yeah, that was like, I mean, I'm totally straight with you, man. It's like, that's learning experience. I like that. That's really good stuff to